And hi again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Donovan and Dino. I'm Dave DeNatale, along with the voice of the Browns, Jim Donovan. A weekend, Jimmy, unlike anything we've seen in a long time, maybe if ever. Give me your top-line reaction, I guess, first to how everything played out up and before and then into the Browns' loss to the Jets.
Well, Dino, I'll let you in on a little bit of the story because I was a very, very minor part of the whole weekend. On Saturday, I was scheduled to tape our pregame interview with Kevin Stefanski at 12:30, and the coach is tight on time. So when he says 12:30, it's a go at 12:30 because the Browns would then, by schedule, head out to the airport, go to New York, and get ready to play the New York Jets. When that and paused, then my first feeling that something was amiss. And of course, then the information started to come out that there was a positive test. The facility had been shut down. The team was sent home because they had all tested in the morning. They had started the process very quickly but very efficiently of contact tracing, and the afternoon then started to go on. The interview then was slated to go at 3 o'clock, and it got pushed again. And that's when you knew this was really starting to become a major story. By 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, when the interview again was supposed to happen, then the situation was that the first bit of information started to come out that B.J. Goodson had tested positive, and that suddenly the Browns were going to be without, quote, several players. When those players were identified, I mean, you just went, oh, my goodness, oh, no. I mean, really? I mean, I know they're playing a 1-13 team in the New York Jets, but look at the talent. And in the one position in particular, the wide receivers, look at what you're going to be missing and who the heck is going to play at those positions. Finally, the Browns left at 7 o'clock, and they flew to New York, and the interview then is scheduled for when they got to the hotel. But I'm saying to myself, there's no way this is going to happen because they're going to be in emergency game planning scenarios to try and come up with some kind of a plan to play this game with players who haven't played at all with the Browns or in this offense at all, or specifically with Baker Mayfield. So then the interview got canceled on Saturday night, and we're going to do it Sunday morning when the coach arrives at the stadium at 10 o'clock. And sure enough, he sits down, Kevin Stefanski, in his office at MetLife Stadium before he puts on his Browns coaching attire. And we do the interview, and he tells me that they had just been in a parking garage across the street from their hotel and had a practice, a walkthrough practice with these wide receivers and the other players to try and get them acclimated into some step A of here's the offense we're going to try and run in the passing game. Here's what you do. Here's the motion that you run on this particular play. And so I got more and more concerned at that point. So that's kind of the TikTok of how it went down. And then you saw it unfold at 1 o'clock and what went on.
I mean, it's another chapter in the never written Jim Donovan book of crazy Browns experiences I've been a part of in 21 years.
Now, you're not getting that on the other television stations in Cleveland.
No,
they're just giving you 23-16. They lost, and they need to win Sunday. You just got a minute-by-minute TikTok, and I had a million things I had to do on Saturday around the farm, as we say. But I'm on hold all day, looking into an empty screen, waiting for my head coach to come and give me 8 minutes of his time and tell me how they're going to beat the Jets.
When we got to the game, the Browns play, and you just went through the scenario of how things played themselves out. And for the coach and his staff to try to put a game plan, to reshuffle a game plan to meet this new scenario, it was going to be challenging. I guess the first thing that came to my mind, I was surprised because of the new receiving core that the run-pass distribution was so crazy in favor of the pass, 53 compared to 18 runs. And I know the Jets were stacking the box and they seemed to be playing well initially, especially against the run. But were you surprised that had such a disparity in terms of the Browns choosing to to throw as much as they did?
Well, I think this was what I had learned and what they felt the plan was going to be. When it was public that they had lost all the wide receivers and the guys who were going to come in and play for them, I think that they realized that the Jets were going to say, well, they're going to lean on their strength, which is they're going to run the football. We're going to take the run away. So we're going to stack the box on them. Okay, and everybody's doing that against them of late. You know, that's protocol, by the way, and that's a bad word these days. But, I mean, that is protocol. You know, if you're going to play against the Browns, you have to control that run or they're going to beat you that way. So I think what the Browns said is, we need to back them off the line of scrimmage. So we need to throw the ball. We're not comfortable yet throwing the ball to these brand new wide receivers, and certainly at the start of the game. Let's go to the tight ends. So that's to Hooper a lot. They tried to get it to Bryant. So they were throwing the ball, but specifically it was to the tight ends and a little bit to the running backs, to Kareem Hunt and Chubb a couple of times. Now the problem then became a secondary problem, and that was the two new guys on the offensive line. They were having a tough day. Kendall Lamb had a tough day at left tackle with Jedrick Wills out. And though Nick Harris played very well against the Giants, the Jets really went after him. And that became a problem too. So now, even to get the ball to the tight ends and throw the ball, Mayfield started to get pressure on him in the pocket. And he started to get hit, and he started to get sacked, and now the turnovers start and things like that. So I think that was the initial plan. That's why you saw so much pass early. But remember, identify where the pass was going. It was going to the tight ends.
Yeah. The other thing,
I incidentally think the tight ends let them down yesterday. I didn't think they played very, very well. You know, they're paying Austin Hooper a ton of money. Yeah. Harrison Bryant kind of had the bobbles and the drops and a couple of fumbles as the year has gone on in his rookie season. But on a day where, and there have been a lot of days where we have said, hey, why don't they get the ball to the tight ends? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of money and draft picks invested in them, even with Njoku, you know, in there too. Why aren't they going to the tight ends? Well, yesterday, I mean, that was the plan. Now the Browns as a team had 7 drops yesterday. And last week we talked about, hey, we don't talk about drops anymore. That's how sure-handed they are. They had 7 drops yesterday, and a number of them were on those tight ends.
Yeah, on that 3rd and long that looked like they were almost trying to do a hook and lateral with Hooper and Hunt. I mean, that was one where if Austin just catches that pass, it's 4th and short. You've got better field position.
Right. Yeah.
It's one of those scenarios. I didn't bring up the point. The fan, you know, if you take the pulse of the fans today, I mean, obviously there's frustration. A lot of it's because, you know, there's the belief that, well, the NFL allowed in the past the Tennessee Titans to have postponement, and certainly the Baltimore Ravens, we go back to Thanksgiving, to be postponed, but yet the Browns, because they had the good contact tracing, they were able to identify close contacts, they had to play. What's your kind of response to that?
Well, my response is, I think there might have been a problem because there is a story out there that there is a video of a Browns player, you know, in contact with these players that missed the game yesterday, no mask. Mm-hmm. And I think that became a problem. You know, that might be one of the problems in the whole scenario. I think number 2 is they want to play the games. And they did come out and say, hey, listen, they weren't going to cancel games because of a lack of a competitive situation going into the game. The other thing is, I think the NFL is so close to the finish line in getting this regular season in and parked and get it done, that I think that they felt, you know, wide receivers, you know, not that they grow on trees, but, you know, you can certainly, you know, win and operate, you know, in a different way, I guess is the best way to explain it. But there might have been a problem there with that video with the no mask. Yeah. Sort of as a, hey, you know, you let down your guard, and it was inside your own facility.
Yeah. It becomes your own fault.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a town hall downtown. And if Town Hall now would like to give us a certificate to the two of us for the show, I would be willing to accept it. But it's not like they were down at Town Hall having a Christmas party.
Right.
I think this one was right in the facility.
One other, just kind of before we get to the Steelers and kind of what's ahead for the Browns, one last thing I want to get to. You and I have talked over the years, and I can remember after watching the Bears and the Eagles in the playoffs a couple of years ago, kickers and confidence and how those things kind of really become glaring when you get to pivotal games or postseason games. And as well as Cody Parkey had kicked earlier this year, it comes to a point now when, you just are confident. You wonder if he can even make the extra point. And a lot of times he can't make the extra point, let alone putting him in for a crucial field goal.
Yeah. Certainly at that stadium, he's having trouble with extra points because he missed one the week before against the Giants. He has a bad look. Right now. He really does. Inside that face mask, he has a puzzled, troubled look that you don't like to see. Never saw it with Phil Dawson. Right. Never saw it with Matt Barr when he was here during the golden years. That's a concern. I don't know what they would do, though. I know they have another kicker on their practice squad right now, but I don't think at this point they are at the point where they want to bring someone in to kick against the Pittsburgh Steelers in a win and you're in type of scenario. So I think they're going to ride with them. They don't cut him any slack. I mean, especially his coach, Mike Prefer, who comes out even the week before when it was a 48-yard extra point because of the penalty on Landry against the Giants for taunting. He didn't cut him any slack. He said, hey, it's a 48-yard kick. It wasn't 58 yards. It was 48 yards. You should make the kick. I know they end up losing by 7, but the fact that point difference went to 4 or stayed at 4, that was a problem because that changed the whole strategy. Now you needed 2 scores in some way to end up winning the game. And that became a problem strategically for them. They were having enough trouble getting first downs, never mind saying, okay, we got to kick a field goal and another field goal. Or if we get a touchdown, they can kick a field goal and tie the game because of that 4-point, 3-point margin on the other side. He is right now, he's shaky at best.
Yeah. The game with the Steelers, the Browns are trying to get into the playoffs for the first time in 18 years, but I kind of feel like Sunday's game may as well, we could call it a playoff game because if you don't win, your season's over. If you win, you can advance. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Browns react and how they, who's able to play. And also what the Steelers do and who's going to be available for Mike Tomlin, who he makes available in essentially, it could be a meaningless game for them heading into the postseason.
Right. So a lot to unpack there. Wednesday and Thursday become very critical days for Browns fans and for the Browns. Wednesday, can Wyatt Teller get out on the field and practice? Because it's a much different offensive line with Wyatt Teller. Yes. Wednesday, they should have an upgrade and an update on Jed Wills and how's he doing. Now, they keep saying he has not tested positive for COVID. He's just been sick. But again, remember, Myles Garrett was that scenario too, that he had not tested positive, but he wasn't feeling well. And then he did have COVID. On the other side, remember, OBJ wasn't feeling well, but did play, and he didn't have COVID. So Wednesday becomes a big day there. Thursday becomes a very, very big day because all of those guys that were part of the close contact tracing that missed the game. So in other words, the linebackers, other than Goodson, who's definitely out, so Jacob Phillips, and all of those receivers, they would become eligible to come back to the team on Thursday as long as they all test negative. And so far, that has been the case. They have all tested negative. And that would be a very, very, that's it. That's the ball game right there. So that's on the Browns side. So Wednesday and Thursday are big, big days. And I know Browns fans will have their ear and to what's going on out in Berea there. For the Steelers, let me throw this at you. A couple of years ago, they had everything buttoned up, and they decided to rest people the last week of the season. Now, they had a bye the next week, and the bye is out except for the top seeds this year. But they had a bye, and then they opened up at Heinz Field against Jacksonville, and they were just not good in the first half. They fell way behind in the game, made a valiant Heinz Field comeback, as they always do, in the second half, but they lost, and they were eliminated, okay? Same thing happened to Baltimore last year. They wrapped up the top seed against the Browns, second to last week, took Lamar Jackson and their regulars out the final week, played RG3, still won, had a bye. So the starters had 2 weeks off, came out, lost to Tennessee, right, in the opening round. On the other side, the other issue here is Pittsburgh finally played well yesterday, but only in the second half. They had a woeful first half. But they got going in the second half. What if they say, hey, listen, let's keep the engine running because we weren't playing well for 3-4 weeks before this. Let's play and see if we do get working. Maybe we'll take people out as the game goes along. Or, they say they do what maybe a lot of Browns fans want them to do and say, hey, Mason Rudolph, it's your game. You go out there. It's your ball game. And we've seen that scenario a lot of times when we played the Steelers at the end of the year, but it's never been so important to us.
Yeah.
I think that kind of covers the situation, what they're going to try and do. The only other thing I would mention to you is the Steelers' schedule this year has really been, and people can say very unfairly so, thrown into a bag and mixed up. And remember, they were robbed of their real bye week because of the Titans game, I think, and then they had the Thanksgiving situation with the Ravens. They kept getting pushed around. They really haven't had time off like other NFL teams have had. They've always been on the wait for another. Are we going to play? You're going to play tomorrow rather than today. So, those are all the scenarios. Now, Mike Tomlin speaks to the media in Pittsburgh on Tuesdays rather than Monday. So maybe he'll shed some light on it tomorrow.
Lastly, Kevin Stefanski has done no shortage of a wonderful job, and he may very well win Coach of the Year, and certainly deservedly so if he does. This is going to be, for all the culture and everything he's done to get this team now ready. We're going to see how the preparations go for what's essentially a playoff game. I'm fascinated to see how they bounce back, like they bounced back after the Ravens lost and played so well against the Giants. I'm fascinated to see how these next 5 or 6 days play themselves out.
Yeah, I'm in the ballpark that he'll have them ready. They haven't lost 2 in a row all year long, and now is not the time to break that string. This is it. Isn't it strange, Dino? It's always the Steelers for the Browns. It's always the Steelers. When they finally came back in 1999, who was the first game? It was the Steelers, okay? When they finally made the playoffs, who was the playoff game? It was the Steelers, okay? And now here we are once again. There are 10 to 15 other scenarios that are the same way. Now here we are. The Browns going to finally get into the playoffs. And who stands in the way? It's the Steelers. It's not the other teams in the tiebreaker situation. It's the Steelers. It's in front of them. And it's always in front of them. It's how they draft. It's how they gauge where they are in the division. It's always measured against Pittsburgh. And now this Sunday, this is the ultimate. This is the ultimate.
Love it. Love it. My friend, as always, I appreciate it. Great call yesterday, despite the loss. And Happy New Year to you and the Donovan family. And we'll see you back here next week.
Dino, thanks a lot. Happy New Year to you and to everybody out there. And boy, hang on tight, everybody. This is going to be quite a ride this week.
Indeed. Indeed. Thanks, everybody, for watching Donovan and Dino right here on WKYC.com.